Even better.
So that's good.
All right. Did it start? Okay, let's start. What are you doing, man? Hey. I'm trying to
We're going to start.
Noisy in here. The meeting tonight is for the conduct of town
part
business
for you
by
if
the
you
town
want.
board.
Okay.
The public is invited to participate at the items marked on the agenda public comment. During that segment of the meeting, if you have a question or comment for the supervisor, please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged. Please state your full name and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Thank you for your anticipated cooperation.
Thank you. August 26th, it's our workshop meeting, end of the month meeting. Hard to believe it's the end of August already, but here we are. So let's please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. And tonight I want to remember the 3-year anniversary of the 13 members of the military who lost their lives at Kabul Air Force Base in the evacuation of Afghanistan. Our memories with them and their families, and we thank them, and that's how we were able to serve our country and our town. Thank you.
My son graduated with two of the Marines that died.
Really?
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible. Okay. All right, so I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I make that motion.
And all in favor? Aye. Aye, so moved. Motion to approve the minutes from the August 12th, 2024 Town Board meeting.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, so moved. Authorize payment of bills of $901,607.65. Big bills this month, mainly $526,000 is blacktop. $100,000 is for the pier, 106 to be exact, and about another $75,000 in MVP. So that's 700,000 of it right there. So big chunk of that's that, but $901,607.65. Need a motion to pay the bills.
I make a motion to authorize the payment of bills.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved, thank you. All right, supervisor updates. As everybody knows, a lot of people are here. We finally got the Ridge Line vote up for tonight, so I expect a good discussion tonight. Also, the North Pier is coming along well. We finally got Randy back there. The pier itself is dock is all in place. It's aligned, it's bolted down, it's ready to go. The cement work is starting to be formed out for the new gangway that's going to be going in. The gangway is going to match the South Pier's gangway. So that's moving forward. Also, we're moving forward with CSX on phase 2 of the crossing. I did have a Zoom meeting with CSX and DOT, and DOT and CSX are working together to build that crossing. Anything in between the fencing, DOT has gotten a grant to put all the light signals in and the safety features and the blacktop and all that, and that's directly paid by DOT to CSX. We would be responsible for the east and the west side of either side of the fence, which means the approachment and the ADA compliant ramp that would be going on the east side of the landing. Well, we're going to do that engineering with Pittigue and Beham Design, and we are going to try to have our highway department do a lot of this work in-house to save us money. We're going to see how that goes. I got to see what the engineering plans and see if the capabilities are there by the highway department to do so. If we can, we will. Besides that, again, it's the end of the month, so I want to ask Sherrod, I know she just got back from vacation, but how is, I'm going to jump ahead from committees, but how are we doing with the recreational activities? I know Halloween's coming up and things like that. So,
Yeah, Rec Committee met at the beginning of the month, and the Halloween trunk or treat is the focal point for them right now. Actually, our Rec Committee chair is in the audience, so I should probably let her talk instead of speaking on her
she's
behalf. But the date is solidified for the trunk or treat, which is Saturday, October 26th from 3:30 to 5:30 at the town park. So those preparations are well underway. Chief, I think our next step is to just chat with you and see what the involvement from the police department is looking like for this year, if we want to keep that combined like we did last year. And then we can work on the logistics, but everything's set to go, and the flyer will be posted to the public very soon. There will be a Facebook event created so that we can really get the word out, but as you know, there's not usually much trouble getting the word out on this one. The crowd is pretty enormous.
yeah.
Rec Committee is also working on other events, including the Polar Express for December, and we talked, I believe, last meeting about the tree lighting ceremony for this year and moving that to the town park so that more people can participate, and we can hopefully move that to a Sunday, or to a Saturday, actually, with a Sunday rain date.
That's good. That's a good idea. And I'm glad Arlette's here. Good job what you and Jen are doing, making all these great events for the community. And you guys are very organized. And obviously my wife is on the committee, so she reports back to me. And she says more and more people keep coming.
So every month
So-
there's new people
Which
joining
is-
the Rec Committee. It's
yeah.
getting really big, and that
So-
makes it possible to do a lot more events. So.
Yeah. So that's what's awesome. So I thank you guys for doing that. So good job as always. What else do we got going on? So the Youngs Field lights, as we passed a few meetings back, the poles have been ordered. I believe they should be here in 2 weeks, maybe a week, and then the installation of those lights would start to go in. You know, Sherrod, you make fall ball. I'm not sure. It's gonna be close, but there's quite a bit of electrical work and digging work there to be done. But that's moving forward also. So a lot of good things are going on. And of course, the community center is being actively used a lot now. So it's been getting used more and more, and you're gonna see tonight we got more requests. I also just got another request today from Pat Ryan again to use the community center. He used it, I believe it was a few weeks or a month ago for an event, and he wants to come back again. The Board of Election likes it. So, I mean, everybody loves the community center. So, very happy that it's being used by not just the community, but people that come from outside the community. And also HGTV is filming in our town recently, and that's one of the places they want to go and film at to kind of capture the look of what our town is like. And I think that's pretty much one of the reasons why we built
right
it.
there.
You know, it was kind of like we want to show people what Marlborough's like, and making the community center look like part of our community was what it was about. So it's nice that they want to go there and film that. So that's my report for today. So I don't have any presentations. So does anybody have specific comments on the agenda, I should say? No? Okay, so reports of committees. You did the recreational committee, so you're off the hook. But CAC committee, I see Mickey's here, right? Where were you last meeting, Mickey? You weren't here last time, were you? No, you weren't. Mary Beth had to come up and speak for you.
And she's a very good
She's a very good
substitute
speaker.
for me. Good evening, everybody. We enjoyed our new meeting space at the community center and look forward to our next meeting there, which will be on Thursday, September 12th at 6:30 p.m. Member Naseem Hadaway continues to represent us via his participation in the Ulster County Climate Smart Committee and in the Clean Energy Communities programs. We will be participating in their upcoming September roundtable discussions. We also discussed producing an event of some type to highlight the use of solar energy. In that regard, would you update us on the progress of the solar farm? We would schedule the event to support the opening of the solar farm and Nexamp marketing of the services to the community. We had the opportunity to review the current situation in regards to the adoption of the Ridgeline Protection Law prior to the vote scheduled for this evening. Our thoughts are reported in this attached letter, which I will now read. The CAC members are very appreciative that some of the recommendations for additional wording to the proposed Ridgeline law have been included in the second suggested amendment to the law, namely inclusion of appropriate aesthetic values on color of structures and attention to lighting types and requirements. These complement the town's desire to address environmental considerations in compliance with the objectives of the comprehensive plan. The CAC joins the Town Planning Board and Ulster County Planning Board requests to retain the original no disturbance 50-foot area setback allowance. We also concur with them and urge you to maintain the original wording shall demonstrate to the reviewing board or town engineer and the town code enforcement officer. If the new wording eliminates the words reviewing board or, there is no directive to dictate and reiterate the applicant's responsibility to produce their plans to the Planning Board or the Zoning Board of Appeals. This omission seems unwise at best in terms of the duties of Town Planning Board or ZBA members. It also leads to a new ambiguity in the code for the applicant's responsibility. You have stated you are trying to correct such confusion by introducing a change to this code. We feel that consistency of the wording as originally created would maintain the protections and duties of all town employees and agencies and help to foster the present checks and balances of the original document. In reviewing the minutes of town board meetings since the April 22nd public hearing on this revision, there are no notes of discussion on this resolution. We wonder how the board can come to a decision on this controversial issue if you have not had a public discussion about the attorney's directives or the comments from the town and county planning boards. We have no record of such a discourse as required by New York State open meetings law. Perhaps you have individually considered all of the objections and will be voting no to this resolution tonight to put the matter aside and rely on the original wording. However, should you be planning on voting yes on the existing reintroduction code changes, we urge you to reconsider. General municipal law requires that the legal foundation for overriding the Planning Board, Ulster County Planning Board's rejection must be disclosed, and we would also like to understand such a decision tonight before your vote. As board members and our representatives, we request that you vote no on this resolution until this matter is adequately addressed and disclosed to the public, and we thank you for your consideration. So that was our letter. In listening to your reports, however, I would also suggest that perhaps the Recreation Committee or the Town Board with your improvements to the Little League Park, if there's anything we can do for future grants in 25 to get any vegetation there, any new plantings, we would be happy to sponsor those grant applications and help in any other way we can and work with the Rec Committee.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Do you have any word on the solar farm?
Next amp?
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
that happening or?
Yeah, every time I talk to Michael, it's 3 more months. Now, it was supposed to be by the end of the summer. Well, we're at the end of the summer. They're not up there. So, no. Right now, he's working on it. So, last I talked with him was probably 2 months ago now. He said they would be up there by the end of the summer, which is now August or early September. We're working out a contractual agreement with them because the cap repair needs to still be done up at the transfer station, and it's like a $79,000 repair to do that cap. So Michael is get back to his board, and they're looking to actually pay for that via some of the payments that they would be giving us through the first couple of years. So I'm waiting for that contract to come back and see if that's going to work out. Rather than us have to shell out $79,000 to fix the cap right now, I had Russ Knoll work on this with us. He got some estimates. That's where those numbers came from. And I'm very confident those are accurate numbers because Russ is very thorough. So once I get that back from Michael, then we'll see. But they really can't move forward until that cap gets repaired. So it's kind of, the onus is on them to help us out, I guess, say. So.
Well, I do have a vision of what I would like to do to create that type of an event. to really make it worthwhile for everybody, so that would need some advanced planning. So just if you could keep us updated,
Sure.
like 6 to 8 months advance notice, I'd appreciate that as well.
Okay.
And once again, we hope you will consider your vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody, we have no other committees here tonight, right? No other committees tonight, so I got open for public comments. Anybody have a public comment? And again, this is public comments. It's not a question and answer session, so if you have a comment, please make a comment. The board will have comments before we vote on what we're doing with the ridgeline and why we're moving forward. But I'm just going to ask you to make comments, and then we're going to go to the next person who wants to make a comment. Because we started this process December 11th, to be accurate. So it's been quite a long time. So anybody want to come up? Come on up. Anybody? Come on up. How you doing, Cindy?
Do I have to state my name or?
Yeah.
Well, I'm Cindy Lanza.
You might as well.
If you don't know. So I just want to say that I'm still disappointed that this really hasn't been discussed much before it's come up for a vote. The public hearing was closed April 22nd, and there might be things that you guys know that we don't, but as far as public discussion, there has been none. So I'm disappointed in the revisions of the changes of the ridgeline protection law. And there is language that needs to be cleaned up and a few items that need to be addressed. I think if the board would reject this revision and take a collaborative approach, we could make this a much better code. For example, since the changes only apply to the construction stage, there is still the problem that caused the original confusion. Any new subdivision still has to come before the planning board to make sure that the location of the house and infrastructure is consistent with the meets, bounds, and any special land requirements in the zone in which the development is taking place. The board, in conjunction with the engineer, is responsible for making sure the applicant can meet the requirements before they give approval, and that is necessary before the building inspector is able to entertain a building permit. If the planning board had the engineer require the home envelope to be staked on the plat, it would ensure that the location would meet code. Then the construction would be easier to permit, and it would make the process more cost-effective and easier for the applicant. There are also issues with the authorizing resolution and SECRA. In particular, the reference to this being consistent with the goals of the town's comprehensive plan, which I can dispute if you want specifics. The main thing I would like to say is I think we can do better. I would ask the town board to reject this law and take a collaborative approach with the engineer, planning board, CAC, and other interested town departments to propose a better law that would end confusion for property owners and be consistent with the master plan's goal to protect our Marlborough mountains. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody? Oh, look. Sure, Mary Beth, come on up.
My name's Mary Beth King, and I'm a Milton resident. And I sent this to this letter to the town board earlier today, but I'd like to share it with everybody present. You are well aware of the objections that have been brought to your attention many times over the course of several public hearings, namely the failure to include in the revised resolution oversight of the town's planning board or the zoning board of appeals, assigning sole authority to the code enforcement officer and town engineer for approval. Concerns regarding the 50-foot ridgeline designation, lack of consistency with the comprehensive master plan, and a failure to publicly respond to the adverse recommendations of our town's planning board, the Ulster County Planning Board, as well as Scenic Hudson. Consider, if you will, the destruction that just one citizen has engendered with the current resolution in place, seemingly without being held accountable for his actions. A precedent has been set, and we can only surmise that with the proposed resolution, landowners will feel unimpeded in what is done with their land, knowing that the likelihood of being held accountable is low. All of you have lived most, if not all of your lives here in this beautiful land, so richly blessed. You are elected as stewards not only of our tax dollars, but our land as well. You have said if the townspeople don't like it, quote, they can vote us out. While true, this response is cavalier and fails to address the questions and comments as described above. Your expressed desire for transparency and to do what's best for Marlborough is jeopardized by your actions on this measure. So what is best for Marlborough? I ask that you give thought to the Iroquois proverb, in every deliberation, we must consider the impact of our decisions on the next 7 generations. Passing this resolution as it stands will leave a stain on this board that will long be remembered for allowing our lands to be potentially scarred for many moons, if not permanently. Respectfully, thank you. And I just want to say, I know it's been since December, but I think that if there's still this level of discord and concern, that best not to rush into a decision. This decision has a big impact.
We understand.
All right.
And I'm glad you
Thank
came because I had your letter ready to
All right,
read,
yeah.
so I don't have to read it now, so that's good. Thank you very much. All right, so if there's no other public comments, I got a couple for the record that people sent me to read because they couldn't be here, and I want to read them. So the first one, oh, Mrs. McKay, you're here, aren't you? I'll read it, though. You don't want to read it? I'll read it. I am writing with my concerns about the town code of the Marlborough Mountain Ridgeline. I'm asking the board to explain its reasons for excluding the town planning board and/or the ZBA in the approval process for the Ridgeline development. Would it not be better to have more eyes on the process than less, considering the confusion which has arisen in the past subdivisions? Also, what is the rationale that the board is using to reject the Ulster County Planning Board's counsel? What information did the members use to decline the board's advice? I would like direction where I will obtain information about how the board came to the decision and spurn the collective knowledge of Ulster County Planning Board. Thank you for your time and consideration on this matter, Elisa Nicole McKay. And I did give you a response, right? So you did get that. So thank you for your comments. Thank you very much. And this one is from Joseph Caserto, who couldn't be here tonight. Dear Scott, I'm writing this on my own behalf and not as a member of the CAC. Please include it in the correspondence to be read at tonight's meeting. I ask that the town board incorporate the original 50-foot height restriction as advised by the Ulster County Planning Board and the review board mentioned, both of which are in the existing town code. into the proposed changes to the town code regarding protections of the ridgeline. I firmly believe that the retaining these elements from the existing town code does not mean the board and the public have wasted time and effort over the past several months. On the contrary, adding them to the proposed changes that emerge from the public hearings will significantly enhance the protections of residents and property on the Marlborough Mountain and the local environment, thereby strengthening the town code. The ongoing ridgeline discussion has been an admirable example of government and public working together. I commend the town board for their efforts. I express my gratitude to you and your community members for your active participation in the public hearing and the preserving of diverse opinions on this issue. I respectfully request that you vote against the proposed changes and reintroduce them with the essential language defining the 50-foot height restriction and including the reviewing board. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts and my concerns, and that's sincerely Joseph Concerto. So that's all the ones I have on the ridgeline. So I'm going to close the public comments section. Oh, come on up. Yeah, anything. You don't have to just talk about the ridgeline. Yeah, absolutely. Come on up. Yep, I have that. I'm going to go, that's my correspondence letters, even though I'm reading the ridgeline ones, but I got yours in my correspondence letters.
Just read it?
You could read it if you like.
All right. So my name is Diane Merrill. I am a citizen of Marlborough, and I am representing my neighbors who live on West Street between Western and Dubois Street. And I'll just give you a little background of what happened. I'm writing to ask you to introduce, well, I was writing this to you, to introduce and support a change to the Marlborough Town Codes 145-12-1, which prohibits parking on both sides of West Street from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Town Code 145-10, which is parking and/or standing prohibited at all times in certain locations. And so just so you get a little background of this, Code 145-12.1 was added to the code May 24th of 1999, but never enforced. There were no signs. Nobody on the street knew anything about it when we bought our property. No one can tell me where 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. came from. But neither I nor my neighbors are aware of this code at the point of purchasing our homes. And as you know, this problem arose as a result of the customers at the Bar and Grill, which is at the corner of West Street and Western Avenue, where it used to be the landscaping business there.
Still there.
Yep.
Landscaping is still there.
Well,
Part of
downstairs is the Bar and Grill. And, they're being very successful. They're just trying to do their business right. But as a result of that, what was happening is people were, from their business, were parking down West Street on both sides all the way up to where the bed and breakfast is, which created a problem primarily for the people who own the bed and breakfast. So, and I understand that. So my neighbors and I realized the problem this has created for the owners of the B&B, or the pools, but solving their problem only resulted in causing parking problems for us. Our guests and family members cannot park in front of our own homes. My ability to rent the apartment in my legal two-family house is hindered because my tenant now has to find parking away from their residence. The parking space available in the municipal parking lot next to the Marlborough Market is limited. I was told that your company's Ambito Landscaping is allotted 5 spaces.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay, well, that's the information I was given. I'm just going on that.
I'll tell you the truth if you want to hear it.
Yes, I do.
So I have 2 men that live in the apartment behind the market.
Oh, and they're yellow?
There's 2 of my trucks that are there. They're the trucks that they take home at night. It's 2 spots, not 5. What you might be getting confused about is that as a business, I'm entitled to 5 on-street parking spots. The whole town is. Anybody in business has 5 parking spots. They overlap each other. Doesn't make much sense.
On-street?
On-street parking. We're allowed 5 spots.
See, so even that, the sign doesn't even represent that.
Well, if there's no parking on West Street, which I'll be honest with you, 1999, I was unaware of that was even a law. I think we all were.
But anyway, you know, you have your needs, the bed and breakfast have their needs, the bar and grill have their needs, and we, as people who live on that town, have our needs, and so we think we've come up with something that will be okay for everybody, you know what I mean? So, but talking about that municipal place, I noticed that you guys fixed up the one that was across from Western, did a really nice job over there, but the one that's there, like you said, the people who live in that yellow housing behind Marlborough, they use that as their own place to park too. And then there's this dilapidated camper there, which was supposed to have a sign on it, was going to be gone in June, still there. There's no...
Chief could explain that one.
We had some legal issues with that. We are working on it. We are now currently waiting for highway to catch up. I can't find a tow company that's willing to come take it because they know they're going to get stuck with it. There's a destruction process they have to follow to other possible. So I did speak with the highway department as soon as they get done with this bridge culvert, two bridge culvert projects they're working on. We will be removing that. We're going to store it for the appropriate amount of time.
I think, you know, the town, from what I'm hearing, has a lot more going on than just fixing up this municipal parking lot. But anyway, so let's see. But in addition to that, no parking from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., does anybody know where that came from?
It's in the code.
No, but I mean, why it's in the
We
code?
weren't here in 1999.
That wasn't our board in
Yeah, nobody
1999.
knows,
It had
so
nothing to
and
do
it
with it.
doesn't really help the pools because people can still park there at night. You know, so it really doesn't serve their purpose. So anyway, what we wanted to ask, and I have signatures from all the various people on the, in that area, is to change, it would be, I mean, if I had my way, I'd go out with a grinder and just grind off the arrows, pointing to all of us, right? But if you want to do it the legitimate way, change the sign in front of 10 West Street to say no parking anytime, with an arrow that's only pointing towards Western, right? So it would be like the pool's house, pointing towards Western, that there's no parking, and change the sign in front of 5 West Street, which is their bed and breakfast, also pointing towards Western Avenue rather, saying no parking anytime. And then the signs that are in front of 16 West Street they can still say no parking from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. if that's what you want, but with an arrow just points towards Dubois Street. And then changing the sign in front of 11 West Street to say no parking 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with an arrow only pointing towards Dubois Street.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How about we just take the law off totally?
Pardon me?
Would you be opposed if we just canceled the no parking law and just put parking
Yeah,
back on the street?
everybody would love it.
Well, I think that'd be more,
I know, but it really wouldn't solve,
I mean, instead of changing 16 different signs and everybody getting confused,
well, it's only 4 signs.
well, whatever.
And if you change them, you're probably going to have the people who are affected by the overparking coming and saying,
So
why
I'll
not?
speak on my behalf, not for the board or the town. It was a stupid law to begin with. I don't know how it got passed. It's a commercial area that abuts that street. No parking on that street is ridiculous. If you want to open up a bed and breakfast or you want to buy a house there, you got to know that there's commercial buildings along the strip next to it. So if you don't want to be by the parking rules or the no parking rules or whatever it may be, then you buy a house 6 miles up the road. This is ridiculous. This is just wasted time that we're doing here.
It's the whole town, it's not just theirs. You got Grand Street, you got Church Street. You could give out tickets there all day, right? I mean, they're
Well, I
He's not
have
gonna
to
give
say
tickets
thank you
out.
for not
He's not going to
enforcing
give
this.
tickets out, because when he gets tickets out, we get calls, he gets calls, and we end up squashing the tickets.
I'm
because
just saying he
it's a
could
small
give,
town.
I said he could give out tickets.
But
I didn't say he was going to.
We can do whatever. We got to discuss it, obviously, and there's a process, just like anything. There's a process. You just heard from the chief. We're trying to move a camper. We can't even move a goddamn camper because we got to go through a process.
Okay, so what would...
It's not just like this. We're
What
not
would
there.
my process be? What-
He's doing the process. He's in the middle of the process. Oh, as far
No,
as
I
changing
mean,
the
what
thing?
would-
So like I said when I talked to you on the phone, the reason why those signs went up is because we got a written complaint from a resident, right? That they called us on the law, that it wasn't being enforced and there was no signs put up, and they signed it and wrote a written complaint. So since they called us on it, I instructed the chief and the highway department to put the signs up. And as I told you, which you have here, if you give us a petition from the people on the street surrounding it that don't agree with the law, that gives us cause to review the law, which we will do. and then we can make changes as we believe should work for everybody, right? So that's where the process starts now. So what I want to do is, I like to have a couple of board members with the chief look at this and review this, and then you come back with some recommendations on where you believe we should go with this. Is it eliminating the whole law? Is it one side of the street parking and no other side not? Or is it like they put in here certain sections can or can't? But I think it needs a review because, again, if someone makes a written complaint, we act. It don't matter who you are. If you put your name on a piece of paper and you put it in writing, we were going to act. Now the same goes for you. You just put something in writing, and now we'll act, right?
Well, let me just close with one thing, because I don't want to create my problem, solution, create a problem for someone else.
Exactly.
Like this happened.
That's why I want people to
And
review
I
it.
know that the schools want handicap parking only in front of their bed and breakfast. So make it parking everywhere except right there, handicap only.
Well, we can't make a law specifically for one house, so that, we're not gonna create a law for one house. It's gonna be a law that's for the whole neighborhood, right? And again, as Dave said, you're living in an area that's commercial, residential mix, right? And you're in the vicinity of the main street of the hamlet of Marlborough. You're gonna have a lot of off-street parking that go down the off-roads, right? As we all know, we all live here. There's no parking in the hamlet of Marlborough. There's barely no parking in the hamlet of Milton. It's been an ongoing issue forever. So, but we will now address it. I would ask what board members want to be on this committee with the chief.
I'll go on that committee.
You live in the hamlet. Dave, you live in the hamlet.
You want me on there? I'll go.
I think you, Eddie, and Jerry should work together because you all live there. So, I think that's probably the
I think we
best.
should encompass the whole village, not just that one road.
No, but it should be. Because there's other sections in the code, right, Jerry? We went through it.
We talked about them, yeah.
That actually do say that there should be no parking in certain areas also.
And it's hard to.
That we don't have signs up.
It's hard to take the whole town like one thing, because every street's so different. Look at those
Yeah, but
streets
put a
that's right in
sign.
front of the fire department. You can't say, those people have no driveways.
It's
Yeah.
Grand Street, they got driveways, they just don't park in them. They
Most
get
So-
enough for one car, that's about it, but.
So I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna let you guys
All right, thank you.
do some investigation, and then we will get back to it.
Hand up.
Mr. DiOrio, you want to come on up?
I'll make it brief. When we went to the planning and we got everything approved, specifically, it was talked about, nobody ever knew, including us, that was not parking. We even talked about where's people gonna park, everybody on planning, everybody talked about it, and that was parking. So we're getting affected as a business in town. We invested money. We're trying to do the right thing in town. I think we have done the right thing. And whenever the police have come, we've asked people to move when they were parking there. So it is affecting our business. And again, like I said, if you just take the signs down and allow people to park, it is what it is. Everybody travels. We go to Beacon, we go to Newburgh, we go to the riverfront. That's what it is. There's cars down there, and you find a place to park, or you just don't bother patronizing those businesses because parking is a headache. And I think you guys did a great job with the parking lot next door. There's lines there where you can actually see where the parking, you've probably gained some spots, and maybe it's possible we could do the same thing at the lot across the street once the camper is gone there. And during our planning and getting this approved, they actually talked about putting lines up for parking along that street, which could solve some issues if we come, so people aren't randomly parking and you can only put 4 cars where there could be 6 or 7. So I appreciate anything you guys can do, and we'll work with you the best we can. And we need the parking. So many people called, said we wanted to go there, but we couldn't find a place to park. Especially now, we used to be able to get 8 or 10 cars down that strip. So I thank you for considering.
Thank you. Yep, parking is an issue in the hamlet. We will address it. Anybody else got any other public comments on any subject? No? All right. So on new business, which I didn't do because I have a letter I wanted to read before we actually did it here, but this was from John Alonji, the Highway Superintendent. Gentlemen, please pass a resolution that the Highway Department, and we don't need a resolution, we just need a motion. Highway Department will use absolutely auctions to find buyers for the following pieces of equipment: a 2008 John Deere mower tractor, which includes roadside flail mower and a hitch flail mower. We have been very successful using this auction company in the past. Sincerely, John Alonji, Highway Superintendent. So that's the new business, is to allow the Highway Department to post following items up for sale. As I just said, the 2008 John Deere tractor and the roadside flare and the hitch flail mower. So I just need a motion that we allow them to use this auction site, which we've used in the past. So
I'll make the motion that we can use Absolutely Automotive to auction the John Deere tractor.
I'll second the motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Absolutely auction. Well, I had half of it right. I had half of it right.
Okay, I got couple other correspondence here.
Oh, that's what you did.
I think it was Ed.
Does the board members have any other new business before I go on to correspondence? Anything else you want to bring up as far as new business?
Danielle, I'm going to touch base with you this week. We talked a little bit at the beginning of the year about starting a marketing committee to help kind of attract some new business to the town, and we haven't made any progress on that yet. So I'm going to talk to you about how we can best get the word out through social media and some other town announcements to see if there'd be anybody willing to volunteer for that. And I think that's a good segue, just given the conversation with the parking on West Street. I know that needs to be resolved, but I think the positive part is that we do have new business coming into our town and new establishments and really making that hamlet a hub for people to come and spend time. So positive movement for sure. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. Anybody else? Any new business?
Yeah, Scott, I want to just say that the comments that we had pertaining to this Ridge Line resolution that we're going to vote on, that I feel that I thought we were transparent as a board. I thought that we gave, since December, since it started until April 22nd when it closed, the public hearing was open. 4 months that we talked about this. I think that we, as a board, we asked advice from our engineers, our lawyers. I think that we really were transparent as a board to come up with a common ground that we would have everyone in the community satisfied the best we can. And you know, maybe that's an impossible feat at times, but I feel that we did do the right thing, and by doing the due process, give it the time and show transparency. So the original code was, conflicting and misleading. I think that right now it's a little bit more clear, not as clear as maybe we would like it, but I don't feel that it was a process that was rushed. I think that we did do our due diligence, and we did take advisement from our professionals, lawyers, and engineers on this resolution, and that's my comment.
Yeah, I'm going to
Thank you.
piggyback, Manny. I'm going to add to that because I do agree with you as well, and I will say that this has been challenging for us as a board. We've been called names by people in this audience. We've been insulted various times by people in this audience, all while sitting here trying to do what is best for the town. And I think that everyone in the audience needs to take a moment and realize that these are opinions, and there are differing opinions, and your opinion is yours and you're entitled to it, but there are people on all sides of this issue. And just circling back to the beginning of this and summarizing some of the steps that we took. Originally, there was confusion in the code around how the 50-foot distance was measured. And we sat here in this room and we listened to many people. We sat at CAC meetings, and every person that came up had a different interpretation of how that 50 feet was measured. We looked at diagrams, we had hand sketches, and some people thought it was from the base of a building, and other people thought it was from the chimney of the building. And the engineer ultimately talked to us and told us what the original intention of the code was. And just in those examples alone, you could see the confusion. The engineer, the building inspector, had a completely different interpretation of that measurement than the engineer did, than the planning board did. So there was clearly a need to look at this code. This wasn't, as I said from the beginning, something that we laid in bed at night and pondered how to stir up controversy. There was a need here to look at this code and to clarify these things. There was also a lot of confusion around the term, the ridgeline affected by the application, right? And Scott's interpretation of what that meant and what ridgeline that was completely different than the code enforcement officer, than the planning board, than the town engineer. So everyone was reading that and applying it to different things differently. So another source of confusion. We spent months discussing those things. We listened to everyone's comments. We took them very seriously. We met separately with Pat Hines. We spoke to Pat Hines. We brought him into a meeting here. We sent the revised code up to the Ulster County Planning Board. We obviously got their feedback, and we sat with the CAC numerous times, and we held numerous public forums. So to say that the board was not transparent is just, I think, factually incorrect. At the end of the day, the resolution that we have before us today is a code that now clarifies those two issues. We have a topographical map now in the code that explicitly explains how we measure where the structure is. We still have a code that keeps building under the ridgeline, right? We still have that in the code. That has not been changed. There are not structures being built over top of the ridgeline in this revised code. Additionally, we have more protections to the ridgeline. Now we have all of these color stipulations and LED lighting stipulations in this code to protect the view shed that everyone in this room was concerned with from day one. On the flip side of that, we have altered the 50 feet, and everyone here is saying that they have no idea why we have done that. I contend that you all know why we've done that we've talked about it ad nauseum, that 50 feet was based on a 2-story building. Measuring from the ground, your average 2-story home was 35 feet. So the original code was 50 feet, measuring from the base of the structure to give you a 15-foot buffer between the top of the ridge and the structure. We have removed that 50 feet so that someone who is building a 1-story home does not have to be set down unnecessarily below the ridgeline. Again, we are still preserving the ridgeline. No structure under this code is extending above the ridgeline. All we've done here is give a 1-story home a little bit more flexibility in where they can build, while adding additional protections in LED lighting and colors, which I said from the beginning, and I'll say it tonight, drive around and look. It's the color of the structure that sticks out and does more damage to the view shed than where the building is placed. That all said, I personally would give property owners more flexibility. So if we go back to the drawing board on this code, I would err on the side of giving more flexibility to the property owner. I think we've done a lot of compromising on the other side of this issue. We've clarified a lot of the gray area in this code. We have preserved the integrity of the ridgeline. I think we've even strengthened the integrity of the ridgeline in this code. And at the end of the day, that supports the town's comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Very well said. Mr. Zambito.
So I'll make it brief, but I just want to reiterate on some of the things that Sherida mentioned about, first of all, it's a little insulting when people say we weren't transparent. I, for one, personally, have sat down with numerous people that are on the opposing side of myself. You all know the way I feel. It's the reason why I'm recusing myself, because I was asked to by this group, which I'm going to stand by. But two individuals that built on the ridgeline, and I met with, they actually said publicly that they felt the ridgeline law that we amended is too restrictive for the property owner. So if somebody on your side is saying we think it's too restrictive, I think we did our job. I don't know any other way to please the people that are on my opposing side is that you just want us to keep the law the way it was and not change it at all. We're here for the taxpayers. Unfortunately, the dozen people that are in the audience that don't want this are not the only taxpayers. I, for one, own part of the ridgeline. I didn't build on top of the ridgeline. I don't intend to build on top of the ridgeline, but I bought the property 30 years ago. My dream was to build on top of the mountain. I wasn't able to do that 30 years ago because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to put a road up where I wanted to go. So I built where I could. But that doesn't mean my son or maybe my grandchildren one day might want to take the family property and build on top. I totally understand. We got to preserve the view. I heard this 100 times. People come up from the city, they love to come up and look at the well, what about the people that own and pay taxes on top of the mountain? And maybe our dream is to one day build on the top. Who is anybody to tell that person what they can and can't do? Maybe I don't like farmland. Should I come down here and start raising a ruckus about, I don't want to see anybody clear 20 acres or put apple trees. I think it's ugly. That's my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm going to come here and start telling people what they can and can't do. I understand, maybe I'm off here a little bit, but like Scenic Hudson, don't they buy property so nobody does develop it? Wouldn't that be a different avenue? Maybe people should get together or find a conglomerate that can buy ridgeline property and don't build on it. Protect it that way. But asking an individual that has paid taxes on land to tell them what they can and can't do, I honestly think it's unconstitutional if you want to go that far. I understand your views, but what I don't like and what really upsets me is it doesn't seem like anybody listens to the opposing side, which is my side. So I will recuse myself tonight, but I just want you all to know the way I feel as a ridgeline property owner. I don't think it's fair that anybody can come in and tell me or anybody else what we can and can't do. You still got to go by the steep slope law. You still got to go through planning. That's one part that I totally agree with the runoff water and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to where I can basically put my house, as long as I have Board of Health approval for a well and septic, I don't think anybody should have the right to tell me what I can and can't do.
Scott, could you talk a little bit about the,
I was going to talk.
go ahead, sorry.
When we first started this back in December, I'm here 68 years. Believe it, I'm a lot younger than that, but I'm here 68 years. My family's been here since 1728, my mother's family. That little cemetery you see when you go in Middle Hope, that's the Cosman Cemetery. That's my family. I want to say one thing. I listened to everybody here on this item. I thought it was good discussion. I thought everybody brought good points. They told me things I didn't know, and I learned from it. And I learned from here over to here because I understood where they were coming from. When I first went into it, my mind was, if I own my property, I want to build whatever I want on it. But it's not there anymore. I believe that the ridge line should be preserved. I think it should, not be like the one across the river, like we get to look at Dam Scammer every day, and we pay good money for our houses on the river, and you look across the river, and what do you see? Nothing good. So that's the one thing, and I don't think the new law is too restrictive. I think it's a compromise, no doubt. But I'm into compromise. But I thank all the people that came, that I talked to, that I heard talk up here, because I learned a lot. And I've drove up there and did things like that because I'm not working anymore, so I got a lot of time on my hands. So, I went up there and saw it. It's beautiful. I agree with all of you. And that's what I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so not used to having a microphone that actually works.
It works, actually.
Can you talk a little bit? I absolutely see the validity in the comments, and I know the particular one that is giving people some angst is the reviewing board being removed from the language and the town code enforcement and engineer being replaced in there. Can you talk about a little bit about that change so that the board understands and we make sure that we're all on the same page, and maybe answer some questions for the audience in that regard?
Sure. So like, I agree with everybody's comments up here. I think we went above and beyond allowing public comments on this. Not only did we take public comments directly here, I read every single comment and email publicly that I received. I entered every single one of them into the record. To say that we as a board haven't publicly spoke about what changes were recommended to us to make is totally inaccurate. As we had public meetings, we openly discussed with every single person that was here why we were doing it. I specifically had the engineer come in and explain why we were doing it. I had drawings with the engineer explaining what we were doing. And I always said, we're going to compromise on this. We're going to come somewhere in the middle. I said, this is not Washington, D.C., where one side always wins and the other one doesn't. We're going to come in the middle like adults and come up with a compromise plan. That's what we did. I can tell you right now, as you heard some of my board members, they don't agree with a lot of this law that we're going to maybe pass tonight or not pass tonight. But they're doing it out of the goodness of compromising and thinking that we are taking your comments and we are taking them seriously, all right? We are adding things into the law that are actually making it better, okay? Now, as far as what Sherrod is asking for is where you're saying we're taking out, I think the thing is you think we're taking the planning board or the ZBA out of the process. That's the furthest thing from the truth. What we did is we put in there the code enforcement officer and the engineer to first review it. Before, and I want to say this saves money. Before the applicant becomes in front of the planning board, and the planning board takes 3 meetings to tell them, oh, by the way, you can't build in that area. And they just wasted $5,000 in the planning board process. No, first they're going to do is come to the building department, and the building department and the engineer are going to determine, is this even feasible to do before you go to the planning board? That's what they're doing. And number 2, every one of these properties don't have to go to the planning board. Mr. Glory's not here tonight, but did Mr. Glory come to the planning board? Did he build into the ridge line recently? Yes, he did. He didn't go to the planning board because if you don't have a subdivision or you're not doing a lot line revision, you don't go to the planning board. You go to the building department code enforcement officer. So what we did is we made them the first line of defense for the ridge line. That's why the code was changed. That's why the wording is the way it is that the code enforcement officer is going to first determine, is this allowable? And he's going to determine that because now in the code, what did we put? You have to give topographic information to the code enforcement officer with latitude and longitude. And you have to tell him where your roof line is according to the ridge line. And if he determines that that fits within the code, he then is going to go to the engineer and he's going to ask him to double check, am I correct? And they're both going to stamp their sign of approval or disapproval. And if they get the approval, now if they're doing a subdivision or a lot line division and they go to the planning board, guess what? That question for the planning board is already answered. Now, does the planning board have site plan approval? Of course they do. It's in other parts of the code. All right? So we're not taking anybody out of the process. We're adding protections into the process. That's what we're doing here. Everybody looks at it in a different way. But what I'm saying is we have compromised. We have made a better law. We are making it first checked at the building department before an applicant becomes and goes to the planning board and wastes time and money. Because if they can't build there, there's no reason to go to the planning board. Correct? I'm not taking questions right now. That was public comments. So to say that we have not talked about this, is unbelievable. Is unbelievable that's been said by the few people that have come up tonight and said those comments. To say that we have not considered everybody's background information, the planning board, the Ulster County Planning Board. Matter of fact, we changed the code from the first December 11th rendition. Did we not? Because we took people's comments in and we updated it. And then we reintroduced it to the public. We had another public meeting. We put it back to the Ulster County Planning Board. We put it back to the town board. But ultimately, these 5 people make the decision. Ulster County Planning Board doesn't make the decision for us. It's a recommendation. Understand? It's a recommendation. These 5 members decide what we're going to pass, what the code's going to say. We are in line with our master plan, and it's in our resolution. You will see all the comments here. It is in line with our master plan. We are not doing any adverse effects to the environment. We are not affecting off drainage. We basically gave someone that's building a 1-story house or a 2-story house a little extra room to move on their property. That's what we did. But we also included lots of restriction on there that I could tell you right now, every one of us up here don't agree with. We don't. But you know what? Out of compromise, we put them in there. We don't agree with it. As Dave said, most of us say you should be able to do what you want on your property. That's what we feel. But we also respect the ridgeline and the beauty of it. So we do understand that aspect of it too. So what was the other question you asked?
I think you covered it.
Did you cover it? Because, like I said, understand this. If you don't have to go to the planning board, your only first line of defense is the building department. Right? It wasn't in the code that said the code enforcement officer had to review it. It said the engineer did. And if the planning board wasn't involved, which Mr. Glory built in there, he just got a building permit and built, didn't he? And he came here and he was totally confused of what the ridge line was. We said, this is where it is, according to our engineer, and he goes, no, it's over here. And my engineer had to correct him. Technically, in the original law, he was out of code. Now he would be. He would be fine. But I just want everybody to understand, we answered most of your questions as the public hearing was going on. We asked every meeting, are there any other questions? Are there any other questions? Are there any other questions? And we answered questions as we were going. So I just don't agree with we weren't transparent. I have to say, I try to be the most transparent person there ever is. I read every email I get. I don't care if it's good or bad. That's part of our job. Our job is to serve the people. Everybody. Not just 12 people, everybody. There's 8,820 people in this town. We serve them all. And that's what we did with this ridgeline protection law. We're protecting the ridge, but we're also giving rights to the people that own property in the ridge. And that's what we did. And that's all I got to say.
Good.
Correspondence. The Marlborough United Methodist Church is requesting to the town board, I'm requesting on behalf of the Milton Marlborough United Methodist Church the use of the town park pavilion on Sunday, September 15th, 2024 during the hours of 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. We will hold our usual Sunday morning church services at the location and time. You're all invited to attend. Attached is a complete copy of the facility use application and certificate of insurance. Name of the town is additional insured. We're requesting that the use fee be waived. Thank you for your consideration in this regard. Sincerely, Margaret H. Horton, Chair of the Board of Trustees of Milton Marlborough. So you have that in the book. We're good, right? So is everybody agreeable? I just need a motion to approve the Marlborough Milton United Methodist Church.
Didn't we do that last week?
I don't think so, Ed.
Well, I already messed up one motion today, so let somebody else do it. You want me to read it so I get it right?
You got it right.
Okay, I will make the motion to waive the fee for the Town Park Pavilion on Sunday, September 15th, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the Milton Marlborough United Methodist Church.
You got to on the highway department.
And I just need a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye, so moved, thank you. This is from the Girl Scouts Heart of the Hudson. I hope this letter finds you well. The River Edge community of the Girl Scouts is always looking to enrich the lives of our youth throughout programs that install values, courage, confidence, and character that help make the world a better place. In short, we hope to help youth become good citizens. We are in search to find community spaces on October 3rd, 2024, 5:30 to 8 p.m. in order to run a recruitment event. We hope to reach more youth and let them experience our programs. We would be most grateful if the Marlborough Recreation Hall, I'm assuming she means the community center, we made available for our nonprofit to use at this time. Yours in Scouting, Erica Darcy, Service Unit Manager. Did we check for availability on this?
She spoke with Emily.
Yeah, she spoke with Emily.
Erica lives in Marlborough. River's Edge is in Pennsylvania, but it's out there at the group, the Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
Behind that group. Not sure how that works, but, so, yeah.
But Erica lives in Marlborough, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so, okay. So, but this is for a larger recruitment group. Sounds like it's like they're trying to recruit Girl Scouts into the scouting, sounds like to me, which seems pretty nice. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with it as long as it's available. Is the board okay? You just need a motion for the
make the
Girl Scouts
motion.
Heart of the Hudson.
I'll make a motion, we waive the fee.
Eddie made a motion. All in favor? Aye. Aye. So moved, thank you. All right, that's all my correspondence. I got a lot of reading to do. Cheryl should read. She's better.
I'm sniffling, I'm freezing up here.
All right, we did public comments. Item 14. So if everybody wasn't here last meeting, the board did pass a resolution to move forward with the contracts that were put out for bid on the Highway Department building. Funding for this is coming through a bond. Councilmember Sessa also asked me to reach back out to our state representatives, which I did. So I got actually some good news back from them this time. So Mr. Jacobson said that he has committed on the phone that he would be giving money towards this project. And then Michelle Hinchy's office also said now they're going to work with Jonathan to see what they can come up combined to get us money towards this project. Which is the good thing is, you know, the first 5 years of this bond is a ban, and in that 5-year period, you could pay down the principal before you transfer over into a bond. So whatever monies they get us, it would be much appreciative. So it sounds very positive, but I'm not going to say we got it until we get it. Senator Hinchy, they don't actually look at this stuff to actually mid-September. So that's, you know, by the end of September, hopefully we'll get some word back. But it sounded very positive. So I thank you for pushing me again to reach out one more time, and hopefully we'll get some. But anyway, in the meantime, we did approve the contracts, and this is the resolution to go out for the bond, and this is what needs to be done in order for us to secure a bond. So let me get to those resolutions. So Resolution 68, to authorize the reconstruction of the construction of addition to Department of Works garage in and for the town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, at the maximum estimated cost of $1,969,995, and that's the total of all the contracts that were awarded last meeting. Subject to permissive referendum, the issuance of a $1.9 million bond of said town to pay part of the cost thereafter, which means we're asking to get a $1.9 million bond maximum, Doesn't mean we have to go 1.9 million, but we're asking to go out for at least 1.9 million if we need to. The other $69,995 will be paid out of our building fund currently, and again, if we get any funds from our state representatives, that $1.9 million bond will come down in cost. So, Supervisor Corcoran proposes the following Ulster County bond resolution subject to permissive referendum at a regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, held at the Town Hall, 21 Milton Turnpike, Suite 200, Milton, New York, in said town on the 26th day of August 2024 at 7:00 p.m. prevailing time. The meeting was called to order by Supervisor Corcoran. Upon roll being called, there were present, absent, everybody's here. The following resolution was afforded by, it's afforded by Supervisor Corcoran, which is me, who moved into adoption, seconded by, I need one of them.
Okay, what do you guys do?
Dave Zambito, to wit, bond resolution dated August 26, 2024, resolution authorizing the reconstruction of the construction of additions to Department of Public Works garage and for the Town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, at the maximum estimated cost of $1,969,995, and authorizing subject to permissive referendum issuance of up to $1.9 million bonds of said town to pay part of the cost thereof. Be it resolved by the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of the total voting strength of the Town Board of the Town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, as follows. Section 1, the reconstruction of the construction of additions to the Department of Public Works garage at 1650 Route 9W, Milton, New York, and in for the Town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, is hereby authorized subject to permissive referendum at a maximum estimated cost of $1,969,995. I think they just want me to say that like 3 times, just so everybody knows. It's like repeating. Section 2, it is hereby determined that the plan for the finance of the aforesaid maximum estimated cost is to be issuance of a $1.9 million bonds of the town, hereby authorized to be issuance thereafter pursuant to provisions of the local finance law and the expenditure of funds from the general fund of the Town of Marlborough. Section 3, it is hereby determined that the period of probable usefulness of the aforesaid specific objects of purpose is 15 years, pursuant of subdivision 12A2 of paragraph of a section 11.00 of the local finance law. It is hereby further determined that the maximum maturity of the bonds hereon authorized will exceed 5 years. Section 4, the faith and credit of the said Town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, are hereby irrevocably pledged for a payment of the principal and interest of such bonds as the same respectively become due and payable. An annual appropriation shall be made in each year sufficient to pay the principal of the interest of such bonds becoming due and payable in such year. There shall annually be levied on all the taxable real property of said town a tax sufficient to pay the principal and of interest of such bonds as the same become due and payable. And as I said at last meeting, we already have this in the budget. An old bond came off and we kept part of that bond, and it's a $171,000 payment, and that will cover this bond. So there will be no increase in taxes to the taxpayer. It's money that we already have budgeted for this bond. So the $171,000 is already in the 2024 budget, so it's already there right now. Section 5, subject to the provisions of the local finance law, the power authorizing the issuance of and to sell bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of a sale of the bonds hereon authorized, including renewables of such notes, is hereby delegated to the supervisor, the chief fiscal officer. Such notes shall be of such terms, forms, and contents, and shall be sold in such manner, and may be prescribed by said supervisor, consistent with the provisions of local finance law. Section 6, all the matters except as provided hereon relating to the bonds herein authorized include the date, the denomination, maturities, and interest payments dates within the limitations prescribed hereon, and the manner of execution of the same, including the consolidation with other issues, and also the ability to issue with stability, substantially level of declining annual debt services shall be determined by the supervisor, the chief fiscal officer of such town. Such bonds shall contain substantially the a validity clause provided for the section 52.00 of the local finance law, and shall otherwise be in such forms of content, such radical additions to those required by section 51.00 of the local finance law, the supervisor shall determine consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. Oh boy. Section 7, the validity of such bonds and bonds anticipation notes may be contested only if, one, such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose for which said town is not authorized to exceed money, or two, the provisions of the local law which should be complied with at the date of publication of this resolution are not substantially complied with, and the action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of such publication, or such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution. Section 8, the resolution shall constitute a statement of official intent for purposes of Treasury Regulations, Section 1.150-2. Other than as specified in the resolution, no monies are responsibly exceeded to be resolved, allocated on a long-term basis or otherwise set aside with respect to the permanent funding of the objects or purpose described herein. Section 9, upon the resolution taking effect, the same shall be published in the summary form, the official newspaper of said town designating for such purposes, together with the notice of the town clerk, is substantially the form provided in section 81.00 of local finance law. And you guys got all that, right? I know we've been going back and forth, but you guys got that. Section 10, this resolution is adopted subject to permissive referendum. The question of adoption of the foregone resolution was duly put to a vote on a roll call, which results in the following.
Councilman Molinelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sessa?
Yes.
Councilman Cauchi?
Yes.
Councilman Zambito?
Yes.
Supervisor Corcoran?
Yes. Thank you. All right, here's another long one.
Waivers.
What?
How many you got?
Waivers.
Yeah, you want to
A lot
read?
of reading. Yeah.
There's a lot of reading tonight. Okay, Resolution 69, to authorize the filing of a negative declaration of notice thereafter pursuant to the requirements of SECRA and 6 MYCRR 617.12 of the implementing regulations. Supervisor Corcoran proposes the following. Town of Marlborough Town Board, SECRA negative declaration and notice of determination of non-significance for a local law of the Town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, amending Chapter 155 zoning, Article IX, Section 155-41.1 of the Marlborough Town Code, entitled Ridgeline and Steep Slope Protection. Whereas the Town of Marlborough Town Board proposes adoption of local law number 3 of the 2024 local law of the Town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, amending Chapter 155 zoning, Article IX, Section 155-41.1, Ridgeline and Steep Slope Protection of the Town Code. And whereas it's determined that non-significance, i.e. negative declaration, is prepared in accordance with Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and its implementing regulations set forth in 6 MYCRR Part 617 regulations. And whereas the town board is directly undertaken action and is only involved agency and therefore the lead agency for environmental review of the action pursuant to SECRA and its implementing regulations. And whereas the name and address of the lead agency is Town of Marlborough Town Board, 21 Milton Turnpike, Milton, New York, 12547, and the responsible officer is Scott Corcoran, Town of Marlborough Town Supervisor, with a telephone number of 845-795-5100, and that's extension 2 if you want to call me. And whereas the Town of Marlborough Town Board, as lead agency, has classified this action as a Type 1 action pursuant to 6 MYCRR Section 617.6 of the regulations, and whereas the Town of Marlborough Town Board has caused the preparation of a full environmental assessment form, FEAF, for review of action. And whereas the Town Board, as lead agency for environmental review of the action, has reviewed the action and all relevant supporting information and documents, has identified the relevant areas of environmental concern, has compared the responsibly expected results of the actions with the criteria set forth in 6 MYCRR Section 617.7, and has determined that there will be no significant adverse environmental impacts associated with the action. And whereas the legislation involves amendments to Chapter 155, which are summarized as follows. 1. Currently, applicants for permits subject to this section of the code are required to demonstrate to the reviewing board or town engineer that no proposed structure will extend above the predominant tree line. Currently, no structure subject to this section of the code shall be located closer than 50 feet in elevation to the ridge line affected by the application, as determined by the town engineer. According to the proposed amendment, applicants will be required to demonstrate to the town engineer and the town code enforcement officer that no proposed structure shall extend above the highest elevation of the Marlborough ridge line, as viewed from the east and determined by the town engineer and the town code enforcement officer. Also, the proposed amendment removes the prohibition against the location of structures closer than 50 feet in elevation to the ridgeline affected by the application. Ridgeline is defined as the highest elevation of land running north and south across the Marlborough Ridgeline Protection Map. 2. Currently, this section of the code provides that there shall be no disturbance within the 50-foot area except for access driveways when said driveway cannot be reasonably located outside the 50-foot area. According to the proposed amendment, there shall be no disturbance of the tree line area above the highest point of the structure and the highest point of the ridgeline. 3. The proposed amendment add the following conditions and the definitions. Applicants are required to provide the building department with topographic survey of the lot showing the topography within 200 feet of the proposed building area and showing elevations with 2 feet intervals. Topography shall use NAV D88. Structure shall not use or contain bright or fluorescent colored materials or highly reflective shiny metal or similar materials. All structures shall be of natural coloring that blend in with the ridgeline natural color scheme. Use of colors such as brown, black, gray, beige, and greens are preferred. Lighting should not be excessive. Bright LED lighting should not be used. Only fully shielded natural lighting and fixtures must be used. Lighting shall be of dark sky compliant. 1. Ridgeline is defined as the highest elevation of land running north and south across the Marlborough Ridgeline Protection Map. 2. Tree line is defined as the edge of the habitat of which trees and vegetation are capable of growing above the ridgeline. 3. NAV D88 is defined as the North American Vertical Datum of 1988. And whereas the negative declaration is supported substantially by the following conclusions of the lead agency. The proposed legislative amendments included in the action are not inconsistent with the existing comprehensive plan of the town of Marlborough, especially in light of the mitigation measures included. The act of adopting the proposed local law will not result in any direct physical adverse environmental impact. It will not result in an indirect or secondary effect which threaten adverse physical impacts upon the environment. The proposed legislative amendment will not propose any action or land uses that may be different from or in sharp contrast to current surrounding land use pattern. Full EAF Part 2, 17A. They will not cause the permanent population of the town to grow more than 5%. Full EAF Part 2, 17B. They are not inconsistent with the current local land law use plan. Full EAF Part 2, 17C. They are not inconsistent with the county plans or other regional land use plans. Full EAF Part 2, 17D. They will not cause a change in density of development that is not supported by existing infrastructure or in distance from the existing infrastructure. Full EAF Part 2, 17E. They are not in the area characterized by low-density development that will require new or expanded public infrastructure. Full EAF Part 2, 17F. They may give rise to secondary development impact of limited residential development, but such impacts are not currently ascertainably and will not be ascertainably in unit and site-specific proposals are revised, at which time they will be subject to legislative and administrative review, as well as review under SECRA, addressing the actual identity and nature of such proposals. Now, therefore, it be resolved, the Town of Marlborough Town Board makes the following findings based upon conclusions identified above. 1, the actions will not result in a substantial adverse change in existing air quality, ground or surface water quality, traffic or noise levels, a substantial increase in solid waste production, or a substantial increase in potential for erosion, flooding, leaching, or drainage problems, or geological features such as cliff dunes, minerals, fossils, or caves, existing transportation systems, or noise, odor, or light. 2, the action will not result in the removal or destruction of large quantities of vegetation or fauna, substantial interference with the movement of any residential migratory fish or wildlife species, impacts in significant habitat areas, substantial impacts on and threatened or engaged species of animals or plant or habitat of such species, or other significant adverse impacts to natural resources. 3, the action does not involve the impairment of any designated critical environmental area. The action will not create a material conflict with the community current plan or goals as officially approved or adopted. 5, the action will not result in the impairment of the character or quality improvement, historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources of the existing community or neighborhood character. 6, the action will not result in a major change in the use of either the quality or type of energy. 7, the action will not create a hazard to human health. 8, the action will not cause substantial change in the use of intensity of use of land, including agricultural, open space, and recreational resources, or in the capacity to support existing use. 9, the action will not encourage or attract a large number of people to places from more than a few days compared to the number of people who would come to such places absent of this action. 10, the action will not result in the creation of material demanded for the actions that would result in one or more of the above consequences. 11, the action does not involve changes in 2 or more elements of the environmental, no one of which has significant impact on the environment, but when considered together result in a substantial adverse impact on the environment. Ooh. 12, the action does not involve 2 or more related actions undertaken, funded, or approved by an agency, none of which has or would have significant impact on the environment, but when considered cumulatively would meet one or more of the criteria of 6 NYCR 617.7C. Be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town Marlborough, acting as lead agency, has examined the impacts which may be reasonably anticipated to result from the action and has determined that it will not have any significant adverse impact on the environment, and that therefore the draft environmental impact statement need not be prepared. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of Town Marlborough hereby issues this negative declaration and notice thereof pursuant of requirements of SECRA and its implementing regulations. And be it further resolved that the Town Board hereby authorize the filing of this negative declaration and notice thereof pursuant to requirements of SECRA and 6 NYCR section 617.12 of the implementing regulations. Oof. The foregone resolution was voted upon with all council members voting as follows.
Supervisor Corcoran.
Yes.
Councilman Molinelli.
Yes.
Councilman Kauke.
Yes.
Councilman Zambito.
I'm recusing.
Abstain.
Abstain.
All right. Recuse. Councilwoman Sessa.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, this is all the certification the clerk's got to do.
Yes, we will fill that in.
That's all the clerk's got to do, so that's for the seeker. And this is the local law, 70, to adopt the local law 3 of the year 2024 entitled Local Law of the Town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, amending Chapter 155 zoning, Article IX, Section 155-41.1 of the Marlborough Town Code entitled Ridgeline and Steep Slope Protection. Supervisor Corcoran proposes the following. Whereas a local law was introduced to be known as the local law number 3 of 2024, entitled the local law of the town of Marlborough, Ulster County, New York, amending chapter 155 zoning, article IX, section 155-41.1 of the Marlborough Town Code, entitled Ridgeline and Steep Slope Protection. Whereas on or about December 11, 2023, the town board of the town of Marlborough introduced the proposed local law of the town of Marlborough, proposed and amended section 155-41.1, ridgeline and steep slope protection, the proposed local law amendment. And whereas on about December 12, 2023, the proposed local law amendment was referred to the Ulster County Planning Board, and whereas on about January 3, 2024, the Ulster County Planning Board submitted comments to the town board on the proposed local law amending. And whereas the town board of the town of Marlborough referred the proposed local law amendment to the town of Marlborough Planning Board in accordance with Town Code section 155-49 and received comments dated January 8, 2024. As where on February 12, 2024, the proposed local law amendment was reintroduced at a public hearing hereon was held on February 26, 2024. And whereas substantial changes were proposed to the proposed local law amendment, and whereas consequently the town board of the town of Marlborough reintroduced proposed amendment to section 155-41.1 of the town of Marlborough Code on April 8, 2024. Whereas the proposed local law amendment was referred to the Ulster County Planning Board again, and whereas on or about May 1st, 2024, the Ulster County Planning Board submitted comments to the town board on the proposed local law amendment. And whereas the town board of the town of Marlborough referred the proposed local law amendment to the town Marlborough Planning Board in accordance with Town Code section 155-49, and received comments dated May 8, 2024. And whereas a public hearing in relation to said local law was held on April 22nd, 2024 at 7 p.m. prevailing time, and whereas notice of said public hearing was given pursuant to terms and provisions of the municipal home rule law of the state of New York, and whereas the town board has weighed and considered comments of the proposed local law amendment from the public, the town Marlborough Planning Board, and the Ulster County Planning Board. And whereas the said local law has been on the desk of the members of the town board of the town of Marlborough for at least 7 days, exclusive of Sunday. Whereas this board, after reviewing the full environmental assessment form regarding the local law and having considered all the documentation, comments, proceedings herefore, and determined that the adoption of this local law will have no significant adverse environmental impacts. Now therefore be resolved that the following local law is hereby enacted. Section 155-41F4 of the Marlborough Town Code is amended to read as follows. Deletions are stricken and additions are here underscored. I'm going to read what it actually is going to be. The underscored you could see are strucken out. Applicant number 4, applicants for construction of properties to which this section applies shall demonstrate to the town engineer and the town code enforcement officer that no proposed building or structure exclusive of chimneys, vents, or other fixtures attached to the structure that is subject to this section shall extend above the highest elevation of the Marlborough Ridgeline as viewed from the east and determined by the town engineer and the town code enforcement officer. A, if the town engineer's opinion such requirements would render an existing lot unbuildable, the town engineer may recommend that the issuance of and a building department may issue a construction permit for existing lot of record which does not meet the requirements of this section upon his determination that no suitable conforming location is available. B, there shall be no disturbance of the tree line area above the highest point of the structure and the highest point of the ridge line. C, applicants are required to provide the building department with topographic survey of the lot showing topography within 200 feet of the proposed building area and showing elevations with 2 feet intervals. Topography shall use NAVD88. D, structures shall not use or contain bright or fluorescent colored materials or highly reflected shining metal or similar materials. All structures shall be a natural color that blend in with the ridgeline natural color scheme. Use of colors such as brown, black, gray, beige, and green are preferred. E, lighting shall not be excessive. Bright LED lighting shall not be used. Only fully shielded natural lighting and fixtures must be used. Lighting shall be dark sky compliant. F, definitions. 1, ridgeline is defined as the highest elevation of land running north and south across the Marlborough Ridgeline Protection Map. 2, tree line is defined as the edge of the habitat in which trees and vegetation are capable of growing above the ridge line. 3, NAVD 88 is defined as North American vertical datum of 1988. Section 3, if any of these sections of the local law shall be held unconstitutional, invalid, or ineffective in whole or in part, such determination shall not be deemed in effect, impair, or invalidate the remainder of this law. Section 4, pursuant to Section 22 of the State Municipal Home Rule Law, this local law shall modify and supersede any provisions of state statute which are consistent with the terms of this local law. Section 5, the local law shall be effective upon filing with the Secretary of State, and it's further resolved the Town Board has reviewed comments from the Ulster County Planning Board, UCPB, dated May 1st, 2024. The Town Board has weighed and considered the comments of the Ulster County Planning Board. Disapproval of certain portions of the proposed local law amendment. The first comment in that draft amendment removes restrictions of structures allowing closer than 50 feet in elevations to the ridgeline and the restrictions on disturbance within the 50-foot area, except for driveways that cannot be located outside the 50-foot area. The purpose of this change was to provide limited opportunities for property owners to develop their properties with residential structures, no part of which may be visible above the ridgeline. Disturbance of steep slopes shall be subject to the same construction control limitations which shall be rigidly enforced. The visual impact of the structure, which can be built within such construction control limitations, shall be mitigated by limitations of the kinds of materials and lighting that are allowed, so that such structure shall be blend in with the land and not stand out from the land. Trees at the top of the ridgeline should not be disturbed, as the ridgeline is defined as the highest elevation of land, and no disturbance of tree lines above the highest point of the structure is permitted. Providing owners with limited reasonable development opportunities and mitigating visual impacts of such development are consistent with the goals of the town comprehensive plan. The second comment is that the proposed amendment removes the review function of the planning board and grants it instead to the town code enforcement officer and applies the law so that no proposed building or structure exceeds above the highest elevation of the Marlborough ridgeline. The text of existing local law refers to reviewing board, not planning board. Let me say that again. The text of the existing law refers to a reviewing board, not the planning board, and also assigns the review function of the reviewing board or the town engineer. The town engineer will continue to have the same review function under proposed local law. Amending the code enforcement officer have the following powers and duties. Town Code Section 67-3A. 1. To receive, review, and approve or disapprove applicants for building permits, certificates of occupancy, certificates of compliance, temporary certificates of operating permits, and plans, specifications, and construction documents submitted with such applications. 2. Upon approval of such application, to issue building permits, certificates of occupancy, certificates of compliance, temporary certificates, and operating permits, and to include the building permits, certificates of occupancy, certificates of compliance, temporary certificates, and operating permits, such terms and conditions as such code enforcement officer may be determined appropriate. 3. To conduct construction inspections, inspections to be made prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy, certificate of compliance, temporary certificates of operating permits, fire safety and property maintenance inspections, incidental and investigations of compliance, and all other inspections required or permitted under any provisions of this article. It is the role of the code enforcement officer to review an application for permit, review the newly mandated topographic survey, and decide whether the applicant should be granted, denied, or referred to the planning board or the zoning board of appeals for any required permits or approvals, just as I was saying before. It's the first line of defense before they go to the planning board or zoning board. This results in no inconsistency with the town comprehensive plan. The final comment is that the restricting structure and building from only the highest elevation does not account for visual impacts elsewhere and does not consist of extent of the area where the proposed within the ridgeline protection area is being made. The proposed local law amendment requires that the mitigation of visual impacts of the entire structure, not just the highest elevation. The following existing code provisions which address visual impacts elsewhere and the extent of the area where the proposed is being made shall remain in effect. Remember, there's other sections of our code that actually protect when you build in this area. Buffers of unidentified land shall be maintained between adjoining properties to extent practicable as determined by the town engineer, Town Code Section 155.1.41.1E5. Development should be sited behind or below visual barriers such as trees, ridge lines, and other topographic features. The height and location of development shall not alter the views of the form of the natural ridgeline. That's still in the code. Okay? The Town Code Section 155.41.1E5, the Ulster County Planning Board comments have been properly addressed and set forth above in its and further. Resolved that the town clerk shall file a certified original of this local law in the office of the town clerk, and one certified copy of the office of Secretary of State of the New York, such certified copy to have attached thereto a certificate that it contains the correct text and the enactment of this local law, and the foregoing resolution was duly put to vote, which result in as follows.
Supervisor Corcoran?
Yes.
Councilman Molinelli?
Yes.
Councilman Kauke?
Yes.
Councilman Zambito?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Sessa?
Yes.
And then Colleen's got to fill it out and send it in as required,
Never change the law that long again.
and that's it. Eddie,
It's time?
we are at number 13. Nope, not 13, sorry, Eddie. 15,
15,
adjournment.
8:30, 8:40. It's time for adjournment.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a good night.